All right, so we have this transformed wife, the transformed wife at the rate godly womanhood, and she has posted a video on TikTok and then tweeted that on Twitter. In Twitter, it says that video has got 500,000 views. It talks about how women should behave, and I thought I should make a response to this video. Let's have a look at what it says.
You were created to be a wife, a mother, and a homemaker. I'm going to give you a little biology lesson.
So right off the bat, we know that this is a lesson for women, an advice for women how they should be acting. Now, even though it is not explicitly said, what is implied in this video is that because this is the situation, you ought to be in that situation. There is a logical leap from is to ought, which is implied in it. And that is what I'm going to address. The other thing is that this justification of how women should act is coming from biology. It's not your regular, religious video where they take it from religious scriptures. It's coming from biology.
When you were born, you had eggs, and you had ovaries, fallopian tubes, and a uterus. And then when you went through puberty, you developed breasts, and you had a monthly cycle. All of these prove that you were created to have and bear children.
Well, it proves that you're created to bear children is an ambiguous term. First of all, you were equipped, you were given the equipment so that you could have children. That's point number one. Point number two, not everybody has that equipment. I'm talking women here, females. In the sense, not everybody has those functioning equipment. And a lot of women cannot have children. You might say that's a minority, but that's a significant minority which we cannot neglect. Third is, if you know about evolution, then you would be able to distinguish between the reasons for something to happen and the justification for we to act in a certain way. So even though the reasons for why we have these equipments or women have these organs would be that so that they can reproduce, that's how the evolution has been happened so far in the history, but it does not provide us a justification that we should act in that way. At any rate, I don't think people who are following this woman would be believing in evolution. So if you take the help of God and say that God gave those equipments, so what God has done is you are given a capability. That does not automatically mean that you have a duty to utilize that capability. One reason is this. We have a lot of things to do. We are capable of violence. We are capable of aggression. Men are capable of more violence. Men are capable of raping women and other men. So they are capable of doing that. Does the capability mean a duty? I think we run into problematic waters if we go on that logic. The second thing is that women are equipped with these organs for reproduction. Correspondingly, men are also equipped with organs of reproduction. And the thing is that it takes a woman to produce one child, it takes 9 months. Whereas in that period, a man can impregnate many women. So just because men are capable of doing that, should they be doing that? I mean, if we follow the logic of capability to duty, then we have to say that men also should impregnate as many women as they can as they go and live through life. And I don't think people who follow this woman would agree with that. That is a problem with this logic. Anyway, let's move on. Let's see what they say.
And then when you marry, you do not have to worry about STDs.
I don't get this statement at all. When you marry, in the sense when a woman marries, she still would have to worry about STDs because her man, her husband, I'm assuming here the straight relationship, I'm not considering homosexuals and so on because I don't think this video is addressing them. So the man can still be sleeping around with hundreds of different women and can bring STDs at home. You still have to worry about STDs unless you have a strict monogamous relationship. So these two statements don't really make any sense.
If you've only had sex with one man, you don't have to worry about needing an abortion.
Again, one leap to another. How is that if you have sex only with one man and assume that one man is having sex only with you, so maybe then you don't have to worry about STDs. But how does that make you carefree about abortion? How can you guarantee that you would not be having an unwanted pregnancy just because of that? That this does not make sense at all.
When his sperm hits your egg, it will implant into your uterus and grow into a human being made in the image of God. As soon as the egg and the sperm meet, it is a human being made in the image of God.
Well, I think made in the image of God is more about human being than about the fertilized egg being a human being. The fertilized, we can grant that that fertilized egg is a human being because it has the genetic makeup of a human species and it's different than its mother and father. Even Peter Singer has granted that. But it's still, there's another leap that, this being a human being to human being made in the image of God. I mean, the same process of fertilizing eggs and sperms happen in many other animals as well. So, made in the image of God applies only to humans just because of this. I don't know how this makes sense.
And then when it's time for it to be born, your body will naturally go into labor and deliver this baby. They will put this baby upon your breast,
Who will put this baby upon your breast?
and that baby will suckle, and that baby will have all the nourishment it needs for even up to a year.
Okay, one very important point here. We are not kangaroos. I know for kangaroos, like they're called joeys, kangaroos' children are called joeys. And these joeys come out of mother's vagina and automatically, instinctively crawl over her body, enter the pouch, locate the nipple, latch onto it, and suckle it, and then they grow there. That's what happens to kangaroos. It doesn't happen like that for humans. In fact, humans is probably one of the messiest deliveries in the mammalian world, at least, because one, we have a large brain, a point I'm going to come back to again, but we have a large brain, so we have to have a large head. That makes delivery of a baby extremely difficult for humans. That's why, yeah, humans especially need a lot of help during the birth, so we need doctors and midwives for that. So, let alone the baby automatically, instinctively crawling to breasts and all that. Even delivering the baby needs such an artificial help. That's point number one. Second, if it was so natural, why are we having breastfeeding campaigns? Women literally have to be trained to breastfeed. There has to be awareness campaign. We have to promote, we have to ask mothers to do breastfeeding. Why is that if it is so natural? If God created all of this, then why do we have to do all of these campaigning?
You were created to be a mother. You were created to bear and raise and nurse children.
You were given a capability of doing that. That much we can agree. I mean, the female body and women, if you consider cis women at least, they were given a body to, and maybe a psychology also, to raise and have children and nurture children. But the capability does not imply a duty. That's a very important point I want to make. It is implied here in this video if you watch the full video.
Your hormones, estrogen and progesterone, are different than men's hormones. Men's hormones are stable. They have 10 times the testosterone that women have. We have mostly progesterone and estrogen, which is the hormones needed to bear children. This is why it's not good for women to be in the workforce. We're much more emotional.
Nobody is denying the differences between sexes, the differences between male and female bodies. The point of general feminism or general progressive thought is that despite those differences, we ought to create equal opportunities for whoever wants to do whatever they want to do. So if there's a woman who is happy being at home, doesn't want to do a job, doesn't care about career, that should be as okay as a woman who wants to go to work and wants to have a career. Both things should be okay. And for that to happen, we have to create a work culture and a work environment which produces or which gives equal opportunities despite these differences. So using these differences as a justification to keep women at home is completely unethical.
Than men. We're more nurturing. We were created this way to bear and nurse and raise children. And so women in the workforce have twice the stress-related diseases as women at home. They have more heart disease, diabetes, and cancer.
That is a blanket straw manning of some other studies which study the differences between sexes related to these diseases. So there are cases where women are once they have diabetes, they are more vulnerable to risks of diabetes than men. But the risks of getting diabetes, for example, in case of sedentary lifestyle, is more to men than in women. Similar is the case with heart disease. More men are more susceptible to heart disease. In fact, the average lifespans of men is lesser than average lifespans of women. So there are differences. It's not black and white, but to make a blanket statement like that just so that it coincides with the conclusion that you want to have is, I think, dishonest.
You're much healthier at home. We were created to be at home, regardless of what you've heard all your life from your mother, from your teachers, from the schools, from Hollywood, from the music. Everywhere, all the air you breathe your whole entire life is feminism, and it's completely contrary to what God created you to be, as I proved in this little bio.
Well, you haven't proven anything. One thing is that there are so many women today who are successful in different fields, whether it be from entertainment to Hollywood and Bollywood to financial career to CEOs and governments and politicians. We have women everywhere. So this is completely rubbish. What you've just mentioned is the capabilities that women have, and what you're implying is that those capabilities then transform into duties automatically. And I have said that men are capable of raping. That does not mean that they should. Men are capable of impregnating many women during a period that women can have one child. That does not mean that they necessarily should. So that is a flaw here. Now, another point, even if you say that, okay, we have this capability, therefore we should use it. Well, we also have a capability of thinking morally. If you think that God has given us these organs, I don't believe that, but if you do, then you also have to accept that God also has given you one more important organ, and that is your brain, which is the most sophisticated and complex machine that we know. It can think morally, it can decide from right from wrong. I'm not going into free will and determinism discussion right now because I don't think this video warrants that. You have capability to think morally. If you're using capability as a justification to duty, then you have a duty to use that moral agency before you can use your genitals. We are not robots with genitals creating our own copies. We are much more than that.
Biology lesson. And this is why I receive so much hate and so many offended women who hate what I say because they've never heard it before. But it's good and it's God's will for you.
It's not that they have never heard it before. It is that they have heard it before. The history is full of it, and you want to take women of the modern world into the past. You want to take their rights away, which have been fought very hard for. So it's not that they have not heard of it because they are hating you or getting offended. It is because of these reasons. The other point in all of this, if you would have noticed, I have not even mentioned antinatalism once. Antinatalism comes after all of this. If you look at the comments of these videos, or whether people agree with this or disagree with this, the concern for the suffering of the child which is going to be created because of this thought, this ideology, is not there at all. Nobody is thinking about the child. That's where antinatalism comes in. And that's why antinatalism is so powerful.
You are created to be wives, mothers, and homemakers. Embrace it, women. It's good and it's beautiful.
Well, we have seen in the history how beautiful it is. Look at the history, look at the mortality rate. Women used to have 5 or 6 children, 4 of them would die, or 2 of them would die in childhood. Is that a good thing? Now, mortality rate has decreased as the fertility rate has decreased, and so on. Anyway, so I thought I should respond to this video because this was complete pro-natalist propaganda and against women in that case. This is not even like a pro-choice argument. This is like completely backward argument which needs to be shot down.